Hi, everyone. Welcome to the info session for Summer in Senegal 2021. We are really happy to have you here. My name is Annie Gibson, and I am the director for the Office of Study Abroad at Tulane. And I'm also one of your leaders for this program. And I'm super excited to talk to you about this program and super excited to host it with you with my good friend and colleague, Carolyn Barber-Pierre. I will let her introduce herself now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn Barber-Pierre. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the director of the Center for Intercultural Life. I'm also excited and delighted that we are able to offer this program considering a number of things, but we are very optimistic about an opportunity for students to have this amazing 2-week experience, this cultural immersion to Senegal, exploring the connections between New Orleans and Senegal. Yeah.
Awesome. So this is going to be a short info video for you. If you guys have further questions, reach out to me or Carol. We are happy to answer them. As Carol said, this is a 2-week cultural immersion trip. It is perfect for those of you that this may be your first time abroad. It's also great for students that have had more experience abroad, but we really have tailored this program to help you think through the questions that you need to ask of yourself and of others when you're bridging intercultural relationships. And so you'll take a course while you're in Senegal on intercultural learning in the context of Senegal. And the program is going to focus on thinking about the connections between New Orleans and Senegal through the Black Atlantic world. And in the case of Senegal, we're going to be thinking about the historical perspective of the transatlantic slave trade. We'll be thinking about colonization, French colonization in Senegal and in New Orleans. You'll see cities, you'll go to cities like Saint Louis in Senegal, and you'll say, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm walking around New Orleans. So those are that's the kind of the goal of this program, is to really help jump you up, to give you the structures to understand how you travel mindfully, how you think about interacting across cultures, how you think about interacting across languages. There's no language requirement for this program. In Senegal, they speak French and they speak Wolof. You will likely be with host families, given that COVID conditions allow. We're very conscious of monitoring that. And we work with you and work with the families on, how do you learn to communicate when there are language barriers? It'll be part of the learning process for you. So it's a real learning experience where you're going to learn live.
Plus, you get we'll get to visit a number of historic sites that I think, like Goree Island.
I'll share my screen while you're talking.
St. Louis. And we even spent the night in the desert. We went amazing camel riding. Just an amazing trip. As you can see, these are our historical sites on Goree Island that we made back in 2017, I believe. Such a rich culture and a rich history, and the connections to New Orleans just are mind-boggling. Goree Island, for those of you who don't know, was one of the sites that enslaved Africans were brought to from Africa, going to the New World. And there's a place on Goree Island called the Door of No Return, which was the last thing they saw in Africa before being transported.
Here it is, right here. This is a photo of it right there, the point of no return.
Right.
So yes, these are just some. So it's a 2-week trip. It'll be action packed. You will have, but most of your learning will be experiential. We'll have visits to some of these sites during the day, and then we will meet for class to reflect on these experiences in relationships to the readings that we're doing on historical context and on intercultural learning. We really seek to have a diverse group for this trip. There are scholarship opportunities for this program, especially for first-time passport holders, for first-gen students, for diverse students. So if you are, this is the first time you've studied abroad, if you're, fitting any of those categories, we have opportunities for fully funded scholarships on this program, which is pretty amazing to have both your trip, covered in this way. So we encourage you to reach out to the Office of Study Abroad to ask questions, if you have any. To apply for this program, you go to the Office of Study Abroad website, and you can look up summer program in Senegal and apply right away. And we encourage you to apply right now. I know that some of you also might have some questions about COVID, so I'll go ahead and address some of those for you right now as well. We are monitoring the situation closely, and we are hopeful that summer programs are going to be allowed to run. As you all know, the current situation is that there's a travel ban instituted for Tulane on non-essential travel. And then also, and this is following travel policies country by country. So at this moment, spring study abroad has been canceled. We are hopeful that summer study abroad will run, and we're going to revisit that in February. So in February, you all will hear another announcement from the Office of Study Abroad about spring travel, and we'll constantly be monitoring it. And no matter what, in the summer, you can expect some changes to the program due to COVID. So we're making sure that we have safety measures in place, that we're able to socially distance with the group, that we can do rapid testing of students, that we're thinking through meals so that we're able to sort of respond in that way. And I'm sure both you and maybe your parents have questions about that, and those are things that we're taking into consideration. The same with kind of transportation and things like that, to make sure that we're able to socially distance. And so we have kind of a range of possibilities of what on the ground might look like based on local conditions and whether or not travel. So February will be a decision, is travel going to be permitted? And then in the months leading up, we would still be monitoring to see what's happening. Senegal is doing, in terms of COVID numbers, they have been within the continent of Africa, have been one of the countries that has been talked about as doing a really good job with response to COVID and public health. Like the whole world right now is seeing a surge. We're seeing coronavirus surges everywhere right now. Senegal is a place where the public health response has been, they're set up for really impactful public health responses, because the capacity, they didn't have the capacity to put everyone on ventilators, so they needed to make sure that they had those policies, those kind of preemptive public health policies in place. And so Senegal implemented a really quick, rapid testing that the cost is very accessible. It's like $1 equivalent that individuals can pick up. And so people were quickly tested. They were very strict on the quarantine. The border shut down, and it remains closed at this time. But there is thought that as the case loads close, that travel will again be permitted. So that's a kind of a snapshot. I know there's probably a lot of questions that you all might have. Jewel, and there's also another student here. Dustin?
Justin.
Dustin, nice to meet you. Yeah, if you guys have any specific questions, we are happy to answer.
Yeah, from the little piece that I got, it sounds really, really amazing. I definitely hope I can apply. And would the COVID-19 restrictions basically be about if we get the vaccine and then if they also distribute it, or is it just as if it's okay enough to travel? Is that kind of what the metrics are?
Yeah, okay, enough to travel. So the we take a lot of things into account. So the first being, what are the travel restrictions in country? Does the country have any sort of travel restriction? Is there any sort of quarantine mandate upon arrival? So if we're still in the scenario where to arrive in Senegal, you're still asked to be under a 14-day quarantine, it doesn't make sense for, unfortunately, for this summer for us to run it because we would be in quarantine for the duration of our program. So one are kind of these government regulations, and then program specific. Tulane also looks at like the way that we build the programs, the program specific. So are we able to, maintain socially distanced interactions if need be and all that kind of thing. So we take care of that. But yeah, so the February date will basically be, okay, what's the situation in Senegal? Can you get in? Is there a quarantine upon arrival? Would there be any sort of quarantine upon return when you came back to the United States? Those would be the biggest things to kind of that you can watch. You can look at the CDC levels and say, okay, what's the CDC travel warning level in Senegal right now? Has it gone down? Those are some of the things that Tulane takes into consideration when they make a decision. And when you apply, so say you apply and we have to cancel. If you want, we can roll you over your application over to next summer. So that's what this program was supposed to run this summer, in 2020. We had to cancel due to COVID, and some of those applicants have rolled over. So if you apply, we'll continue to consider that application for when the program could run at another time.
Okay, great. And then would that also include scholarships? So if you can receive a scholarship, that would roll over to the next time? Okay, great.
Well, so what we likely won't issue you scholarships until we know whether the program's going to run. So we'll wait, your application will be in the system, but we likely will wait to know if the program will run before we disperse scholarships.
Annie, do you want to talk about the pre, during, and post?
Yeah. So this is a 3-credit course that you take, and given the fact that it's kind of short and intense when we're in country, we do some modules online before you depart and some modules online when you get back. And so they'll help orient you to Senegal and orient you to some of the things that we're going to do and see while there. And so we'll have a Canvas course that you'll do some readings, and we'll do some assignments together online, and as a group we'll also meet this spring, so you can meet everyone that's on the trip. And so we'll have those pre-online, and then we'll have these courses while we're in country, and then you'll do some modules when we post-entry when we return, because a lot of the learning for intercultural learning actually happens in that back end, like after you have these really intense experiences and you're trying to process, how people do things differently. Yeah. Jewel, you've been on one of these. Do you have any advice for the virtual world that is going to go on one of these trips with Carol and
I? Being present is a honed skill. I really feel like I don't know. I think it's going to look very different, especially under the context of traveling at this time in the world. But there are multiple ways in which, like, you can really get the most out of an experience. And so I'm like really excited to see how like interpersonal relationships and experiential learning can look like under like certain stressors, because I think one thing that I'm really interested in is the way in which Senegal like is handling their like how their public health practices compare to the United States. And you know, like what we can learn, you know, especially if we're talking about the connections between New Orleans and Senegal and like the different countries, I mean the cities that will go there, like how can New Orleans learn from that? I know that especially in the context of understanding Blackness, like and like global Blackness, and how we all need to keep each other safe and how we all can learn from each other no matter where we are. So but I think that really takes like being really observant, uh, being able to process with each other, being open to learning from each other's processing methods. That was something that I felt was really valuable. So I'm really excited because I have a lot of questions and curiosities, and I hope that I can reapply. I did have a question. This is more personal to me, but I also could probably find out, but I can't remember if I rolled over my scholarship or not. It was such a blur.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if my
I think
application.
that none of them, we didn't issue scholarships yet because we canceled. Oh, no. I no. Let me touch base with you, but I'm pretty sure that no.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think I was like, I'm just gonna graduate, so it's fine. But
Yeah.
now it's a little different, which is fine. You know, we're just fluid and flowing. I'm here.
But were you asking if your application was rolled over? That's the other thing. I can go in and check in a second to see if your application is.
Yeah, I can't remember what we talked about. I feel like that was literally in March, like almost immediately after I came back from.
I'll look at it for you in a second and send you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I also wanted to know one last thing in regards to coronavirus, and making like I know in regards to like staying with people, sometimes there are homestays that are done. Is that something that we are going to like for this program continue with, or will there be other?
Yeah, the idea is to continue to have the homestays. They're currently set up as having homestays. It could be the scenario, if there is a scenario that that we would need to practice more social distancing, that it would make that if it made more sense to not have you with families, but to have us remain in sort of a cohort bubble, that could be a case. We could switch from the homestays to apartments or hotel rooms or something if we're trying to limit the connections interaction. But the hope and the desire is that you all would have experience with homestay families.
That was
Yeah.
probably one of the most powerful experiences for a lot of students going to either Senegal or the DR.
Jewel, I just checked and your application is in there for Senegal. I haven't checked to see if you've completed everything though. So you can log in.
Okay, I can do that tonight or tomorrow to be that.
So and while we're talking about that, I'm going to just walk everybody through how you get to the application, just in case people would like to know. So if you go to global.tulane.edu, you guys can see my screen. Come here to the Office of Study Abroad, and if you you can search programs. And there's a couple of ways that you can do this, but one, if you can search by program by location. So you can either pull up this map, and so then you can see all the places in Africa where we have programs. You can go here to Senegal, and this is the summer program: Senegal, New Orleans, Atlantic Connections. So we're going to click on that. Another way is just a simple search. You can click here and just put in Senegal, and it'll come up. But you'll come here, and this gives a little description. This describes some of the things that that Carol and I talked about. The cost of the program for those who are not on scholarship is $4,500. It gives you a brief overview of Senegal. You can read about it, share it with your family, and then when you're ready to apply, You just hit apply now, and you'll log in and create an application.
And is the $4,500 all inclusive, or is
It
that
does not include their airfare, so that it's inclusive of the course, the course credits, and the programming fee. But then
the scholarship covers?
the scholarship there, it will depend. It will depend how many scholarships the scholarship. In the past, we have had 10 fully funded scholarship, airfare and program, and the hope is that will be the same. There could be, we're constantly talking to advancement about this program, so it could be that by that time we might have a few more airfare scholarships, or we might have, so I don't know exactly how to tell you what scholarships are available, but when you apply, there's there'll be a waiver to release your FERPA and to be considered for a scholarship. And so then we can consider you in the pool, and you would be eligible for all and whatever scholarship options are available and have become available for the program. What other questions you guys have?
Can y'all, okay, I just had always been curious about this, but maybe I just don't know the geography of the country of Senegal, but where is the sand dunes and all of those things with the camels? I know when I think about Senegal, I guess I just only think about the coast. So can y'all talk about what that part of the trip is like, or what happens there and the relevancy to everything in the program?
Yeah. So the desert is called the Lampoul Desert, and it's a portion of the Sahara Desert that comes down. And so we'll go on in our trip between Dakar and Saint Louis, and it's about about a 5-hour drive.
Yeah, it was a nice little drive.
Yeah, and so we'll on the way back from Saint Louis, we'll get in some, these little trucks that can go out into the desert sand, and they'll drive us out to this.
Seen one of those nature movies where they're riding in the back of one of those trucks and the animals. That's the way it felt. Like every time we hit a bump, we were up. We were rolling. It was so much fun, though. We had a good time. To sleep in tents. And there was the moonlight was the only light we had out there, and it was so much fun. We actually had a bonfire and drummers, and that was amazing. But then to take those camel rides down the dune, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and with that, we'll also go up the Senegal.
Other questions? The
Senegal River, where there's lots of where the kind of was like the trade, one of the major trade rivers of Africa. So that's a nice experience too. So you'll have, it's a fast trip. So, but we try to give you a bit of sort of the natural environment, and talk about sort of how culture interacts with the environment, and how location and kind of where people live and how they live becomes so important to how we behave and act, and the ways that we think about things. So in terms of thinking about race, it's really interesting and complicated, and as both as with each of our identities, as a white person or as a person of color, you'll be interpreted in ways that you may not have thought of yourself before.
That was probably the most shocking thing to me. I'm saying I'm going home, and they're like, "You're an American," and Yeah, that was an eye opener on how Africans perceive African Americans. So, but it was great conversation. It was great conversation. Um, yeah, race, class, gender identity. We kind of talked about it all. Yeah.
That sounds so fun. Wow. Thank y'all so much for sharing and answering my question.
Of course, yeah. Justin, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, on that last piece, should there be any concerns about like LGBT plus identities, or how can we like navigate that?
That's a really great question. We'll do some reading about it before pre-departure, and we also will be very conscious about that in terms of homestay families and choices and things like that. You shouldn't be quote unquote worried about it, but it is important that you're aware, and that you do understand the complexities of how gender is understood in Senegal, in a Muslim country. And it'll be a topic of interesting conversation. So it's not a place where, like, if you see, I don't have my map up here, but kind of the countries of the world where there's tolerance. Senegal is kind of right there in the middle, and certain neighborhoods will be more than others, and certain families more than others in terms of their tolerance about it. But we'll talk through that in more detail for sure.
I just remember being in a Muslim country, and we had to remind the women that they couldn't wear like shorts and stuff to some of the sites we went. I mean, there's just little things depending on the country and their religious and spiritual practices or whatever that we need to be mindful as Americans, basically.
Right. Senegal is one of the countries that outlaws same-sex sexual acts, and LGBT communities do face discrimination in society, but there's also at the same time interesting movements against this, right? That we'll see and talk about while we're there. So gender will be something that we'll talk about as Carol mentioned, because for all of us, it will be a shift, how we normally behave as women, how we normally behave. All of us that are not, hetero males will interact differently, and even hetero males have to deal with it. But it is there is a different way of talking about and thinking about, where and with who can you feel as open to talk about these things and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you so much for answering the questions.
What?
Oh, thank you so much for answering the question. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great question. But those are the things that we do talk about. So we had conversation with college students. I can't remember. Was that?
Yeah, we did. We met with some college students. You'll meet with some young people. We'll try to take you to nonprofit organizations too that are doing, work on all of these, a lot of different sort of social justice issues, around gender being one of them. And part of the kind of the pre-departure course, we'll go through in more detail to give you a little bit more structure to understand what you might encounter.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if neither of you have any more questions at this time, you can always shoot me an email or shoot Carol an email or come by the Office of Study Abroad. We would love to talk to you about it more. And we'll continue to hold probably early January another info session. So if other questions come up, you can join, and we'll try to see if we can get some colleagues from Senegal maybe to join us as well. That would be good to have their perspectives. But Carol and I are both really excited for this program, and fingers crossed COVID will let this happen. And you know, I know it's, yes. And yeah, hang in there. I know you guys, it's the end of the semester. People are getting tired, but hopefully this can be something to look forward to.
Right.
Justin, are you a first-time traveler? Or have you traveled before?
Yeah, this would be my first time traveling with like to study abroad, so that would be very exciting to
Cool,
have this
that's
be my first
awesome.
experience.
That's awesome. If you are a first-time passport holder as well, I would recommend to go ahead and start working on your passport, just because right now things could be slower. So if you do not have a passport yet, or if you know other friends that might want to apply that don't have a passport yet, just get the word out that it's good to go ahead and get those documents in early. And if anyone has any questions about what you need to collect and how you get a passport, you can come to my office too, and we'll work with you.
And that's probably one of the things that is important when having these kinds of information. So we don't know how long it's going to take. It might take a little longer. So, you know, getting your passport early will definitely be an advantage. And hopefully we can get back to some sense of normalcy. And go on.
I have one last question. And I also think this could be important for other people who watch this. Is there any specific dates in regards to when the application is due? I know that you said we should start doing it now, but like, you know, is there a deadline of any sorts that we should be keeping an eye out for?
There is a deadline, and now that I have to look it up because I can't remember the exact date, but it's March. And let me go back into the application that we just looked at together so that I can give you the summer deadline. It is March the 1st. So the deadline for summer study abroad applications is March 1st. And by February, you'll have another notification about whether or not summer programs will move forward.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I wish y'all the best, to have a safe and restful Thanksgiving, and for that matter, winter break, because y'all are leaving for good now, some of you. And good luck on your finals.
Yeah, good luck, everybody. It's good to see you.
Yes.
Jill, nice to meet you, Justin. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions. Pass the word along to your friends as well. All the best.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.